The sky tore open. A roar rolled across Sicily so deep it seemed to shake the bones of the island itself. Mount Etna, Europe's most restless giant, had awakened again. But this time, something was different. And what happened next shocked scientists with this insane move. The beginning. It began with a shape on the horizon, a plume rising slowly at first, then unfurling across the sky like a black banner stretching kilometers above Sicily. Mount Etna, Europe's largest and most restless volcano, had awakened again, but this time something was different. Something ancient and unfamiliar was stirring inside. Did you know it has erupted over 200 times in recorded history? Its eruptions aren't just fiery spectacles. They've shaped the landscape, destroyed villages, and even reshaped coastlines. For locals, Etna is a presence one learns to live with, a giant that sleeps lightly, always breathing, always watching. But on this day, the mountain was not simply active, it was communicating. The first sign. In the early hours, seismic instruments hummed with a low, rhythmic vibration, deep, steady, unnerving. Pressure was rising beneath the summit. A shift, a push. Something is forcing its way upward. Then it happened. One of Etna's summit craters collapsed inward, forming a violent breach. In an instant, a fast-moving cloud of ash and superheated gas roared from the opening with explosive force. This was not just smoke. This was a pyroclastic surge, a lethal wave of scorching fragments capable of racing down a mountainside faster than any human could run. Eyewitnesses near the upper slopes described the sound as a roar that didn't come from the air, but from inside the earth itself. As the ash rose, lava burst forth, spilling in 3 directions, flowing like rivers of fire, carving new wounds into the mountain's flanks. To some, it was beautiful. To others, it was a warning. But this eruption didn't behave normally. Most of Etna's eruptions fall under what volcanologists call strombolian eruptions, frequent bursts of lava, loud but generally controlled. But as researchers observed the behavior of this eruption, something felt off. The speed, the heat signature, the plume density, none of it fit the typical pattern. It was as if Etna was doing something it had not done in centuries. And that was only the beginning. A volcano whose bones are moving. Scientists have long studied the eastern flank of Etna, a region infamous for instability. It isn't just the surface that shifts. The entire side of the mountain is slowly sliding toward the sea, inch by inch, year by year. But the true mechanics of this movement remain a mystery. Where exactly is the sliding surface? What forces are pushing it? How deep does the instability run? And what chain reaction could trigger a catastrophic collapse? If Etna's flank were to give away, even partially, geological records suggest that it could send a tsunami racing across the Mediterranean just as it did thousands of years ago. The kind of disaster that reshapes coastlines. The kind of disaster history remembers in myth. This eruption reignited those fears. Because instruments detected stress signature that mirrored the early precursors of past major collapses. Etna was shifting again, and no one knew how far it would go. Etna spews out lava fountains that can reach hundreds of meters into the sky, creating molten fireworks visible from space. Imagine standing nearby, watching red-hot rivers snake down the mountainside. The volcano is so unpredictable that new craters often appear overnight, swallowing forests, roads, and sometimes entire buildings. In 1669, a lava flow nearly destroyed Catania, forcing mass evacuations. How eruptions really begin, the pressure within. Deep beneath the surface, rock melts into magma, thick, volatile, suffocating heat. It carries gases, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and water vapor, pressed under impossible pressure. As magma rises, the pressure drops, gases expand, bubbles form. The system becomes unstable, like shaking a bottle of carbonated drink and snapping the cap. But Etna is not just a vent. It is a network, fractures, conduits, caverns, and heat reservoirs. A labyrinth of molten pathways no human eyes will ever see directly. Scientists monitor tremors, the ground's bulging, and the chemical composition of gases. They track how the volcano breathes, but this time, the signals came too fast. Something deep had pushed upward without warning, like a door below had been forced open. It also produces terrifyingly fast-moving pyroclastic flows. Superheated clouds of gas and ash race down the slopes at hundreds of kilometers per hour. These are silent killers, capable of obliterating everything in their path. Ash clouds from eruptions can travel thousands of kilometers, grounding flights and blanketing towns in fine, choking dust. Scientists push closer and pay the price. As ash clouds continue to rise, a team of volcanologists and guides prepared to ascend to gather samples from the fresh lava field before it cooled. But the air was shifting, the ground tremored in irregular pulses. It was dangerous. They went anyway. A mountain is studied not from a distance, but from its breadth. Giuseppe Panfalo, a veteran Etna guide, was there when it happened. He had led thousands of hikers up the slopes. He knew the mountain's moods. This time, he said, the mountain felt alive. It came at once, not with warning, with intention. A thundercrack blast tore through the summit basin. A plume of ash and incandescent rock shot upward and then swept sideways. A pyroclastic cloud, not downward but outward, a rare, unpredictable shift in volcanic behavior. Tourists ran, stumbling down volcanic rock as air burned, ash thickened, and the sky turned red-black. Video shows silhouettes sprinting through choking smoke, the mountain roaring behind them like something awake and aware. No one should have survived, but they did. Barely. The mountain that watches the sea. This eruption reminded Europe and the world of a truth often forgotten. Etna is not merely scenery, it is a force. It looms over a region where 1 million people live, work, farm, and raise families on its fertile slopes. Its soil is rich, made from centuries of eruptions. Life blooms in the shadow of destruction. And because of that, Etna is not just a volcano. It is part of the identity of Sicily. A protector, a destroyer, a ruler, and a threat. Can we predict what comes next? We can measure magma rising. We can detect earthquakes. We can track ground swelling. But none of that guarantees certainty. Volcanoes do not operate on human schedules. However, a new breakthrough has changed the conversation. Researchers studying Etna discovered a pattern involving the B-value, a statistical ratio of small to large earthquakes that change as magma moves. When the B-value shifts, it can reveal volcanic unrest months before gas emissions or ground deformation appear. Meaning, we may finally have a way to see eruptions coming before they surface. But the question remains, would we act in time? And more importantly, what if the warning isn't for an eruption, but for a collapse? Etna has been active for about 500,000 years, and scientists say it could erupt again at any moment. Yet, locals treat it like a mischievous neighbor, part fear, part fascination. It even has its own ecosystem. Unique fungi, insects, and plants thrive on its barren slopes, adapted to survive extreme heat and acidic soils. The eruption that echoed across Sicily. As the eruption peaked, the explosion's shockwave carried for 50 kilometers, heard in coastal towns miles away. Residents in Catania watched as the sky glowed with crimson ash, a dark living storm cloud twisting above the city. Even from a safe distance, people felt the mountain's presence, like standing before a massive beating heart. No towns were destroyed, no lives were lost, but the message was unmistakable. Etna is changing, and it wants us to know. The calm that follows. By evening, the lava flows cooled, the plume thinned, the sky returned to its usual pale Sicilian blue. But the mountain had not gone dormant, it had simply paused, waiting. Volcanologist Alessio Sacco summarized it best. Etna commands respect. It terrifies and mesmerizes in the same breath. It reminds us that the earth below is not still, it is alive. What happens now? Scientists will drill deeper, sensors will be upgraded, satellites will track every tremor. But the truth is simple. No human system controls Etna, no wall can contain it, no prediction can silence the unknown. The mountain will decide. And when it moves again, the world will look up once more, holding its breath. Make sure our channel erupts by hitting that like and subscribe button and follow more content like this.